time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very, very big fir tree. Now, my dear, said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, you may go into the fields or down the lane, but whatever you do, don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an incident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. Oh, no! I don't want to be rabbit stew. I don't want to be cottontail pie. I don't want to be any kind of pie. Now run along and don't get into mischief. I am going out. I'm going to go shopping, kids. So go play, but be very, very careful. Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the wood to the baker's. She bought a loaf of bread and 5 currant buns. I can smell those freshly baked cinnamon buns now with little raisins called currants. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. Oh, I love blackberries, don't you? They're delicious. But Peter, who was very, very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. Naughty, naughty, naughty rabbit. Do as your mother says, but don't do what she says don't do. First, Peter ate some lettuce, and then some French beans, and they ate some radishes. Lettuce, French beans, radishes, carrots. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. Oh, my stomach, I don't feel good. But around the end of a cucumber frame, who should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Oh, who's planting cucumbers? The evil old Mr. McGregor. Oh, no, Peter, don't go near him. No. Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake, calling out, Stop, thief! Stop, thief! I'll get you, little Peter Rabbit. Urgh. Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten his way back to the gate. He ran and ran and ran, and lost his shoes among the cabbages and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. Oh no, he lost his shoes. After losing his shoes, Peter ran on 4 legs and went faster and faster. I think he might have got away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons and really rather new. Oh no, he got caught in the gooseberry net? Yeah, the net was to make sure those little pesky rabbits and squirrels don't eat all those delicious, yummy gooseberries. Popular in London. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears. Oh, me, I'm trapped in the net. But his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows who flew over to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Come on, get out of there, Peter. You can do it. Come on, Peter. Just a button on your little jacket. You can do it. But Mr. McGregor came up with a seed, which he intended to pop on top of Peter. But Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his blue jacket behind him. Yay! Peter got away. Oh, yes, with the help of those birds who encouraged him just when he was down on his luck. We all need to be encouraged. And Peter rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not been so much water in it. Splash, splash, splash. He got all wet. Yes, he did. But Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each little flower pot. Presently, Peter sneezed. Achoo! Mr. McGregor was after him in no time. I hear you, little rabbit, and I'm gonna get you, Peter Cottontail. Oh, no! And Peter tried to put his foot upon Peter. who jumped out of a window, upsetting 3 plants. Clunk, 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 clunk. Timber, 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 those plants rolled. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter, so he left Peter alone, and Mr. McGregor went back to his work. And then Peter took a quick breath to rest because he was out of breath, and he was trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go, and he was damp from sitting in that wet can. After a time, he began to wonder about going lippity, 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 not very fast, and looking around. Which way should I go? I need to go home. Do I go this way or do I go that way? Soon he found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. Then an old little mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the woods. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large Peter mouth that he couldn't even answer. Is that a Peter mouth? Yep. She could only shake her head at him, and Peter began to cry. Woe is me. Where do I go? And he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans. A big white furry cat was staring at some goldfish, and she was very, very still. She was staring at goldfish, a cat's favorite meal. And she was about to tip her tail twitch as if it were alive. Peter thought it was best to go without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. Cats, they have sharp claws. So Peter went backwards towards the tool shed, but suddenly quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scratch, 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 scratch. Peter scuttered underneath the bushes, but presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. Old McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and behind him was the gate. If he could only get past that mean old Mr. McGregor and get out the white gate, he could go home to Mother. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could go along the straight walk behind some black currant bushes. But that old Mr. McGregor caught sight of Peter around the corner. But Peter didn't care. He kept running and running underneath the gate and was safe at last in the woods outside the garden. Yeah, you mean Peter made it out? But Dad McGregor got Peter's nice brand new blue jacket and hung up the little jacket with made little shoes for a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. He had Peter's jacket. He used it to scare the birds. Birds are smarter than that. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him. He got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice sofa sand on the floor at the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking, and she wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and a pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. Peter, what did you do with your blue jacket? You know how hard I worked to get you that little nice jacket? Waiting all day long on cabbage stew pie. I'm sorry. I forgot it. His mother put him to bed and made him some chamomile tea, and she gave him a dose. 1 tablespoon to be taken at bedtime. Take a spoonful of medicine. But Foxy, Mots, and Concho had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. But Peter had none because he was in bed with a spoonful of medicine. So sometimes it pays to be good at eating delicious bread, milk, and blackberries for supper. But, you know, Mrs. Mom